In this week's episode of One Piece, Rebecca gets all Lucy Lawless on Kurita Coliseum as she prepares to kick some gladiatorial buttocks. But she doesn't exactly have a very big cheering side in Kurita Coliseum because everybody hates Rebecca. If you guys saw last week's episode, you learned a little bit more about her backstory, and since she's related to King Riku, everybody hates her guts. As soon as she walks out to fight, everybody's berating her, everybody in the Coliseum is ganging up on her, and they're not even giving her a chance whatsoever. But what I loved about this scene is that it actually gave me an excuse to like Cavendish a little bit more. You see, I hate Cavendish. He's probably one of my least favorite One Piece characters of all time. However, he is a character who is made to be hated because he's such a snobby little douche nozzle. But at least he actually does something that's kind of cool here. You see, he sort of backs Rebecca up by walking in the middle of Kurita Coliseum and confronting the crowd and basically letting them know, look, if you're gonna talk big, come down into the Coliseum and fight Rebecca yourself. Otherwise, get the hell out of here. What's great about this scene is the crowd immediately goes silent, but then seconds later start cheering and they suddenly love Cavendish. But I gotta say, Cavendish, you won a few points in my book. You went from like full douchebag to like 50% douchebag, but I do sort of agree with Luffy. That was pretty impressive, but I still hate you. All of the action from Kurita Coliseum this week is what bookends this week's episode of One Piece. In the beginning of the episode, Rebecca's getting ready to fight, and in the second half, she finally does start to fight, and we get to finally see how she works. And she basically fights back without actually hurting anybody. She constantly keeps tripping people into water and using her sword to defend herself. So if you wanted to see a scene of Rebecca decapitating someone and blood showering all over the place, go read Berserk. Fans of explosive action will also be happy to see there's a fight scene between Doflamingo, Law, and Fujitora as well, short-lived though it may be. But I loved the scene where Doflamingo was using his strings to tie up Law and then cut up this tree, which just exploded into 1,000 pieces, all perfectly shaped. It was a really well animated scene, and he even catches Law by literally just sitting on him, and he's about to finish him off, and that's when Fujitora comes in, and he's able to stop both Doflamingo and Law with his gravity abilities. And I'm not still sure how this works. It's clearly a devil fruit power, and he always seems to use his sword when he's using these abilities, but it is interesting to note that he can affect two different people at once, because he was stopping Doflamingo, and he was slowly pushing Law into the ground with these big impact forces, which looked pretty freaking painful. This also gave Doflamingo the chance to actually get Caesar Clown's heart back, and he's also about to reveal some pretty big information, probably having to deal with the Celestial Dragon, so I can't wait to see how that's going to turn out. But the whole scene in the middle was definitely welcome, and I'd love to see more from that, because all of that stuff just looks so awesome. But it does suck to see Law get his ass kicked so much. I really want to see him do something really devastating against both of these guys. But at the same time, you do have to realize Doflamingo is definitely one of the mainstay villains of the series. And even though Fujitora is new, he is an admiral. And I gotta say, he is really growing on me. He is one bad motherfucker. Some other little important parts this week are the Tontada tribes are finally meeting up with their different groups and getting ready to go to war. Robin and Usopp's group actually meet up with Frankie and the Toy Soldier, and they're getting ready to go through with their big plan. But we also go back to Zoro and Wicca, and I like the fact that Wicca actually finally gave Zoro the Zoroland name, because that sort of seems to be the thing with the Tontada tribe, that just add land to the end of your name, so I would be like Coryland. But I actually like the fact that when they finally meet up with Sanji and Kinemon, that Zoro goes ahead and actually names them with their land at the end as well. But he gives them some nice little nicknames as well. You'll see what I mean when you watch the episode. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of One Piece? It was okay. It was mostly a setup episode, but at least there was a little bit of action sprinkled in there. First up, all the stuff with Rebecca. I think they could have trimmed some of the stuff at the beginning with everybody yelling at her. We saw a lot of that last week, but the scene did serve a purpose because we did get to see Cavendish come out and be less of a douchebag, and I think that's pretty interesting. As far as Rebecca goes, her fighting style doesn't really blow me away, and it's not all that interesting. In fact, I still want her to be a member of the Straw Hat crew, and one could argue she doesn't really have any fantastical powers and anything, and she really doesn't have anything that could add too much to the strength of the overall crew. But then again, Nami and Usopp started out kind of plain and didn't really have anything too crazy going on, and now they're summoning lightning bolts and giant Venus flytraps from the ground. So I think with a little bit of polish, Rebecca could turn into a really strong asset for the Straw Hat Pirates, and Luffy seems to really be enamored with her. I think it's really funny that he's watching all of that stuff in the dungeon, and it's real nice of Dressrosa to put those big massive HD TV screens for the prisoners to watch. That is some very nice treatment. But the other stuff I loved, of course, is Doflamingo. Any scene that he is involved in is always awesome, mostly because he is incredibly charismatic and he's a great villain, and I want to learn a little bit more about him. Every single time they finally start to get into the backstory of Dressrosa and how his family was involved, I get more and more interested. He's definitely one of the most mysterious pirates that I've seen in One Piece, and I still really don't know how his powers work, but little by little, I think they're going to reveal them in this arc. I know it still involves like strings or something like that. He's still using them to cut things up and everything, and it's still as impressive as it always is. And he's basically just toying with Law when he's in the forest this week. He really beats the crap out of him. However, Law, I don't want to see him go out this easily, though, because he's such a freaking badass. Hopefully someone is going to jump in and help a brother out. I don't know. Also, Fujitora, he was another standout this week. I just thought he's a really cool character. I like the way he's using his gravity in different ways. The Tontada people are always funny and always welcome, and I'd like to see a little bit more maybe from Luffy in the next couple of episodes. And, you know, they didn't even cover all the other members of the Straw Hat Pirates. So overall, this was a decent episode of One Piece. The artwork and the animation was pretty consistent. There were a few action scenes, a lot of those traditional funny One Piece moments, and I want to watch again next week, and that's always a good thing. So if you're continuing to follow the series, definitely check this one out. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Check it out, guys. Another good episode of One Piece. Thank you again for watching my review today. If you guys watched this week's episode of One Piece, please tell me what you thought about it with your comments below. What do you think of Rebecca's fighting style? And if you could choose one character from this arc to be the next member of the Straw Hat Pirates, who would it be? Remember, guys, before you leave, hit that like button so you can give this video a thumbs up, and also subscribe to the channel if you have not already. You can also check us out on Facebook and on Twitter. I'll put links to those in the description box below. And stay tuned at the end of the video. There will be links to 2 brand new series that I am reviewing that just started today. One of them is the brand new Sailor Moon series, Sailor Moon Crystal. Yes, you heard me right. And I'm also reviewing the 2nd season of Sword Art Online. One series that I am definitely looking forward to, and you should definitely check out. Also, stay tuned. Tonight on Toonami is going to be the 2nd season of Space Dandy, and it is going to be dandy, to say the least. So, guys, that concludes my review today. Super Kami Guru 9000. Out.